Hi, I'm Ginny McArthur. I'm a nutritionist, fitness trainer, and life coach, and I'm obsessed with helping women, especially midlife plus women, lose weight, feel healthy, feel amazing, and live rewarding lives with just a little bit of badassery. Last week, we talked about my problem with protein bars, and that sparked a whole lot of questions coming in about protein. As mature women, is eating enough protein something we should be concerned about? Well, I think the answer is yes, but protein is very trendy at the moment. And I think most of us are probably getting enough protein. Fiber is the thing that we're not getting enough of, but that's a whole nother podcast. Um, so I think we should be concerned about protein, but not obsessed with it. 16 to 20% of the female human body is protein. So we're made of, that skeletal muscle. It's our organs, our kidneys, our liver, our heart, skin, hair, nails, tears, enzymes, hormones, immune proteins like antibodies, transport proteins like hemoglobin, RNA, DNA. So we're actually, over a fifth of us, or a fifth of us is made of that stuff. If you are overweight and out of condition, so your body is soft and you're overweight, you're probably not eating enough protein. If your appetite is dysregulated, so you either don't feel hungry, you forget to eat, or you feel hungry all of the time, you may not be eating enough protein. If, like I used to, you have the metabolic rate of a slug and you feel like you've only just got to look at a piece of cake and you put weight on, you're probably not eating enough protein. If your hair, your skin, your nails are aging faster than you think they should be, you may not be eating enough protein. If things like wound repair or injuries are really slow in healing, they're taking longer, and you're feeling constantly tired, you're probably not eating enough protein. I actually used to avoid protein because I thought it was high in calories and I would focus on the salad. And then I'd wonder why I had to eat so little to lose weight. And then when I did lose weight, I couldn't keep it off. It would come back on again with some. I now understand that I was losing muscle tissue as well as, or instead of, body fat because I wasn't giving my body what it needs to maintain that skeletal muscle. And so my metabolism was slowing down because my body was like, oh, there's not a lot of nutrients coming in here, just a bit of salad. And so my metabolic rate slowed down. So I could eat less and less and less in order to lose weight and to keep that weight off. So how much protein do we need? As women, it's somewhere between 1.2 and 1.6 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. Now, that's probably not very useful information, but I will talk you through what it looks like in real food a little bit later. Do we need more protein as we age? Yes. So we probably need 1.8 grams of protein per kilo of body weight when we hit 60 plus, because we will naturally tend towards sarcopenia, which is that loss of muscle tissue. It happens from about the age of 30 onwards, I hate to tell you, but it accelerates with age. Should protein be spread over the whole day? Probably yes, but I think we need to focus on breakfast and dinner. Breakfast because we've gone overnight with no protein. Our body is having to use our own muscle tissue because overnight it's mending stuff, right? So it's actually, we've become in a protein deficit. We're eating into muscle tissue to stop that and get protein synthesis going. So we're rebuilding muscle tissue. We need to put protein into our body. And that's one of the reasons I'm not a fan of intermittent fasting when it means you don't eat till lunchtime or 2 in the afternoon. it means that yes, you may lose weight. And I've proved this with people in my program. You may be losing weight like that because you're reducing your amount of calories in that eating window. But a lot of the weight that you're losing is actually muscle tissue. So I'm not a big fan of that. I'm a fan of getting that protein in within a couple of hours of waking up so that you're stopping that burning into protein that you've been doing overnight. What was another question? Oh, especially at dinner as well. So at dinner time, because overnight when you're sleeping, your body gives out human growth hormone, and that's when it mends and repairs, all the little cross bridges in the muscles that you've broken in your workout or just during your day. It repairs shonky cells. It's doing all of the stuff. It's making new stuff, repairing old stuff. We want plenty of protein in our system so that our body can use that for that process. So I think that sandwiching the fasting period with a 30-gram serve of protein for breakfast and a 30-gram at night is probably a really good idea. And that's for most women, when we're talking about 1.2 to 1.6 or 1.8 grams of protein, we're kind of talking about that. It's 3 to 4 meals of around that 30 grams of protein that absolutely does it. How much is too much? Well, I don't think we need 2 grams of protein or more per kilo of body weight. I think in my early 40s when I was bodybuilding, in fact, again, I had another go at that in my late 50s, I was probably eating too much protein. I was shooting for that 2 to 3 grams. I think that there is enough evidence out there that that can produce an acidic environment in your cells. It may predispose you towards cancers. I think what it may have done for me is, because especially with animal protein, that acidity causes inflammation, but your body may try and pull calcium out of your bones to offset that acid environment. And I think that might be one of the reasons I have osteopenia. It might be. So yes, I think you can eat too much protein. Too much protein is also really hard on your kidneys. And like I say, there are those studies that show that for longevity, it's not ideal. Will protein help with weight loss? Yes. So when you eat protein, you get what we call a thermogenic effect. Because it's hard to break down, it's harder to break down than carbohydrate or fats. So when you're breaking down protein into its amino acids, that creates heat, which uses energy. It's not enough to offset. Like if you eat a protein bar that's 180 calories, you're not going to burn 180 calories plus breaking that down, but you will burn probably an extra 60 calories. So it just gives your metabolism a little bit of a nudge. It allows your body to feel that, there's a good nutrient profile coming in, and it's probably okay to burn fat as a fuel. The other thing it does when it comes to weight loss is it helps to regulate our blood sugars. So let's say, and this is particularly true for women, as we mature and our estrogen levels drop, our insulin goes a little bit awry. So we get a bigger blood sugar response than we used to in our 30s or whatever. So let's say I eat a plum. If I eat that plum, my blood sugars are going to go up. My brain is going to say, right, blood sugars go up, secrete insulin. Insulin switches off your fat burning. It is your fat storage hormone. It's one of the reasons as midlife women, we start to get that weight around our middle. So if I have that plum with a handful of nuts, the protein and fiber and fat in those nuts, but especially the protein, pulls down, because it all gets mixed up obviously into a bolus in my stomach. By the time it hits my small intestine, it's all been mixed up, and the release of the sugars or the glucose in that plum will be far slower than if I hadn't had the nuts. So protein helps to regulate the release of glucose into the bloodstream, and when you're keeping that nice and stable, your body will allow you to burn fat as a fuel. And you won't feel hungry. So it keeps us, it's great for satiety. It keeps us feeling fuller for longer because of that reason. Should I use a protein powder, and if so, which one? I think there's a place for protein powders. Personally, I'd rather get all of my protein from real food, but sometimes that's not convenient. And if I don't want a huge breakfast, if I put a couple of scoops of protein powder in it, I've suddenly got 22 grams of protein in there that wasn't in there before. If I'm out and about and I'm going to miss a meal, I might have some protein in a container. I can just add water, shake it, push it back. That, if you listened to last week, you know that's a better option for me than a protein bar. So there, I think that there is a time for it. I can mix it into yogurt at afternoon tea time if I feel like I need a little bit of a boost in that afternoon meal as well. And if I do use a protein powder, which one? I prefer a plant-based protein powder. It's not as easily assimilated as whey powder, but if you read things like the China study, there's quite a lot of science out there that says some of the proteins in dairy, like casein, may predispose women towards breast cancer, so that's a good reason. Other is our hormones are already freaking well disrupted. Do we want the hormones from a pregnant cow going in there to further confuse things? I don't. So at the moment, I'm using a pea protein isolate. It's third-party tested for heavy metals. Actually comes from New Zealand protein. That is my preference at the moment. And you may find as well that when you take out, I have had clients when they take out the whey protein and swap it, they get less bloating, and it may help with hormonal symptoms, menopausal symptoms as well. Where does protein come from, and what are the best sources for mature women? Well, all animal products are protein because they're made of the same stuff as us. So if it swims, flies, or eats grass, it's a protein. And if it's produced from something that swims, flies, or eats grass, like eggs or dairy or caviar, it's also going to be a protein. Now, I choose not to eat those things. That's my personal preference. There are only 5 things that I don't eat. And those 5 things are fish, poultry, meat, eggs, and dairy. I eat everything else. So there's loads of places for me to get my protein from. I get protein from beans, so chickpeas, beans, legumes, lentils, soy products, which is really helpful because of the phytoestrogens. So things like edamame, tofu, tempeh, nuts. Here go my dogs, and nuts and seeds. And also remember, like, there's 4 grams of protein in a head of broccoli. There's 4 grams of protein in half a sweet corn. So there's lots of other opportunities with the other foods that I choose to eat that push up that protein in a day. So I guess the 5 most important things are: plan your meals around protein. So when you're doing your food plan, you're planning your food for the week or for the day, plan your protein first. So what does that look like? So for me, for breakfast, I make my own soy protein. But for you, it could be soy yogurt. Sorry, I don't make my own soy protein. I make my own soy yogurt. But for you, it might be a Greek yogurt. And I add some protein powder to that. And then I've got my chia, my flaxseed, my fruit, my Brazil nut for the selenium. That combination gives me well over 30 grams of protein in my breakfast. Equally, it could be a couple of slices of grainy sourdough bread with 150 grams of tofu scramble, which is delicious, which I love. For you, it could be a couple of eggs. So a couple of eggs gives you about 16 grams of protein. 150 grams of tofu gives me 18 grams of protein. So I probably want to nudge it up a little bit with some hummus or some edamame beans, or maybe, a little bit of salmon, whatever, just to nudge the protein up in that breakfast. Lunch for me is always leftovers. That sees me through till lunchtime. I don't need morning tea. Lunch is leftovers, so it is normally beans or tofu or tempeh, but for you it could be chicken or fish or lean meat. And to get that 30 grams of protein, you're going to need at least 100 grams raw weight of chicken, lean meat, or fish. So 100 grams will give you around that 20 to 25 grams of protein, and then you add your carbohydrates and your vegetables, and you'll be up at that 30 grams of protein for that meal. In the afternoon, so for me, if I have an afternoon tea, again, I'll have a soy yogurt, and I might just mix some fruit through that, or I might have peanut butter on an apple, or edamame beans. Like 150 grams of edamame beans is 18 grams of protein, and I love that with lemon juice and sea salt. Or it could be veggie sticks with hummus, or it could be a handful of nuts with a piece of fruit. So any of those combinations, the protein will give my metabolism a little bit of a boost, and the protein will also slow the release of the fruit or the carbohydrate portion, which will keep me feeling fuller for longer through until that evening meal. Then dinner. So dinner wants to be, your plate should be about a quarter of your plate should be protein, and 3/4 of your plate should be fibrous vegetables most nights. So that, again, it's that palm-sized piece of protein, about the same thickness. For that nighttime meal, you probably want to look at about 150 grams of raw weight of chicken, lean meat, or fish. For me, that would be 150 grams of tofu or tempeh, or a cup of beans or legumes. And then, I add things like nutritional yeast, and I've got all of my veggies and maybe a blob of hummus instead of a dressing, or tahini type dressing, and that pushes the protein up for that meal. So it's not hard to get that 30 grams of protein. I will actually put a handout in the show notes that just runs you through that and what it looks like. Protein basically feeds muscle, and it increases your metabolism. So the more muscle you have, the more calories you burn. While I'm sitting in this chair, my muscles are holding up my skeleton, my skeletal frame, and when they're doing that, they're creating heat and they're burning calories. So the more muscle I have, the more food I can eat to maintain my weight, or the more food I can eat while I'm losing weight. And if I don't lose all my muscle on my weight loss journey, if I keep it, which we have strategies for at Outlook, if I keep that muscle, then I can eat more at the other end when I'm maintaining. And we all want that, right? That was the previous version of Ginny that didn't eat enough protein, who had to eat less and less and less in order to lose weight, and could literally had to live off an oily rag to keep that weight off. Went back on so easily because I didn't have enough protein, and I'd let my metabolic rate slow down, and I'd lost muscle, which is what happens to a lot of people. Anyway, muscle is the currency of longevity. So if you want a long health span, a long healthy life, you need muscle. We inevitably lose muscle as we age. It's called sarcopenia. From the age of about 30, we are losing muscle. And like I said before, from the age of 60, 65, unless we are proactive, that muscle loss will increase, and then we'll turn into a frail little old lady, not a badass. And we are badasses. So we can't let that happen. The other thing that protein does, as I said earlier, is it regulates blood sugars. It helps to keep your background blood insulin low so that your body can access fat as a fuel. Remember, every time you get a blood sugar spike, you secrete insulin. Insulin is your fat storage hormone, and it loves to store that fat around the middle. So we want to keep your blood sugars nice and stable by using protein at each meal. And this is crucial for mature women, because as our estrogen levels drop, our insulin goes awry. So it is really important for us as we age. I would also love you to consider eating more plant-based proteins to help reduce inflammation, to help with hormone regulation, to help fight off heart disease, and reduce cancer risks. So even if for you what that looks like is bunging a can of lentils or beans into your mince dishes, that's a win. If for you it's doing, like I have some clients, they eat with the family at night and that means meat, but all of their lunches are plant-based proteins. Or if it means for you, maybe you do meatless Monday and one other meatless meal during the week. Or you compromise, you do a bit of both, right? So you've got a small amount of meat, which some of the longest living people in the world do that, right? Meat is not the star of the plate. It's a little bit of meat, and then you top that up with your plant proteins. Some of the longest living and healthiest people on the planet eat beans and legumes. They're a bit of a superhero. So I would love you to, just for your future health, you do not need to go completely plant-based, but if you move gently in that direction, it will help your health. It will help to lower inflammation. And a lot of the diseases that we think about when we think of aging are caused by inflammation. Lastly, I'd like to say that we eat food, not numbers. So I don't want you to get obsessed with counting macros. Honestly, unless you are an athlete, you don't need to count your macros. We just need to prioritize protein in each meal. So, if you're a mature woman and you need support with this, if you need support with finding how much protein to eat, how much movement, what kind of movement you need to do, and help with your mindset around food, I would absolutely love to help you. I have put a free protein sheet link in the show notes. I also have a workshop coming up at the end of January. It's on the 28th of January at 7 p.m. Come and join me then. It's a great place for you to ask me your protein questions or just about balancing your food or creating a meal plan. That's a really good place for you to be. I also have a 12-week challenge starting on the 2nd of February. And again, that's a great place for you to create great healthy habits and put a meal plan together that works for you with my help. Next week, we're talking about knee pain management. I've had a partial knee reconstruction just over 10 years ago. So we're going to talk about which muscles support your knee, which muscles you want to work on strengthening to help prevent knee pain or knee damage worsening. We're also going to be looking about which foods you want to be eating to help reduce inflammation and help support arthritis, and which supplements that may help too. So this is for you if you've just got shonky knees. This is for you if you've had a knee replacement. This is for you if you're waiting for a knee replacement, or overall you just have knee pain. That's next week. Thank you so much for listening to me. Please like, subscribe, and share. Comment. All comments and messages and feedback is so welcome. Thank you again so much for being here. As always, have a happy, healthy week, and I look forward to talking to you next week.